It's almost impossible to find a proper explanation of what Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, mining, and blockchain are, at least not in one place. When you go to Google and type in "what is blockchain" or "what is Bitcoin," you get a lot of articles, videos, animations, etc. However, when you set aside some time to read the articles and watch the videos, you realize that you are not any closer to understanding what blockchain, Bitcoin, mining, and cryptocurrencies are. So, we did some research to summarize everything into a single video for you. We'll keep things simple so it's easier to understand. But before we get to that, make sure you drop a like and hit the red button to subscribe. First things first, blockchain. Blockchain is the technology that enables cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin to work. To simplify it, think of blockchain as a big financial book with endless records of who has how much money and who gave what to whom in the past. It might sound a bit complex, but we'll simplify this even more. Imagine there are only a few people in the world. In the beginning, Jane has $1,000, and the remaining people had nothing. It doesn't sound fair, but it will help you understand it better. That information will be registered in the first block of the chain. Next, Jane gives $300 to John. We register that information in the block and connect it to the previous block. After that, we see that John sent $200 to Paul, and Paul sent $150 to Dave. Both of these transactions are registered in two new blocks, and each of those blocks is connected to the previous block. We're beginning to learn that all of these transactions create a chain, with each transaction being a block. So all of these transactions create a blockchain. This means that a blockchain is a list of transactions that took place within one cryptocurrency. Each cryptocurrency has its own blockchain. So does Bitcoin. It's actually a huge file with records of all transactions that ever took place on the blockchain. On February 7th, 2022, the size of the Bitcoin blockchain was 379 gigabytes. If you or someone you know bought or traded with Bitcoin at some point, that's recorded in the blockchain. Simple, innit? But what is so revolutionary about the blockchain? Well, the revolutionary part is that no transaction can ever be changed or altered. This is also the reason why blockchain became so popular. All personal data about an individual's property can be recorded in one blockchain, which means that a single blockchain can hold everything about an individual, like their ownership of a house, apartment, car, insurance, etc. One of the most common blockchain-related questions is how? How is this so-called chain so infinitely secure? Well, there are two reasons. One, the secret is within the chains that connect transactions. They literally prevent data from ever being changed. The second reason is that the blockchain file is not stored in a single place. It's not owned by anyone, which is the basic principle of blockchain technology. Decentralization. Normal banking systems where all data about our money is held keep everything in one centralized system. So OneDrive has all the data about who has how much money and on what account. This is usually backed up in several different locations. Blockchain, on the other hand, is doing the exact opposite thing. There is no centralized system for blockchain. Instead, people from around the world volunteered to store the blockchain file on their own personal computers, also known as nodes. Each of these nodes has a copy of the file, and it's automatically updated when someone makes a transaction. That way, there is no central authority. Miners and mining. Most of us know someone who is mining Bitcoin or a different cryptocurrency. Miners and mining serve the purpose of confirming and validating transactions. Every node can sign up and be a miner, but for the sake of the video, we'll call them Jane and John. So, how is a transaction handled on a blockchain? Let's say Jane wants to send $100 to John and initiates the transaction. John's PC notifies all miners in the network saying Jane wants to send $100 to John. At that moment, the transaction is still not validated and recorded. Miners from across the globe get the information about the transaction and they check if Jane has enough resources to make the transaction. This makes the blockchain extremely safe because if someone wanted to change someone else's resources, they would have to change every single transaction from the past, which is virtually impossible. So the miners checked that Jane has enough resources, which is step 1. Step 2 is where things get interesting. Miners start to compete who gets to put the next block into the blockchain. What does that mean? To record a new transaction and add a new block to the blockchain, miners need to find a specific piece that fits the chain. That is a number that computers mine, and it can only be found through random guessing. It can't even be calculated. The transaction won't be approved until the computer successfully finds this number. The old and new transactions form a structure called a cryptographic code, and the code is missing a piece that will make it valid. The missing piece is called a nonce. Once found, it completes and approves the transaction. There is no way to calculate this number. It takes a lot of attempts to find the right one. And when we say a lot, we mean a lot. Imagine making 700 trillion attempts to find the right number. So, the only way for this to happen is for thousands of computers from all over the globe to work on it, until one of them gets it right. This is also why the average Bitcoin transaction takes about 10 minutes. Now, when the first miner validates the transaction, they are rewarded with a bit of cryptocurrency, in this case, Bitcoin. And that's why people buy top-tier computers and build mining farms. The more computers you have, the higher your chances of validating the transaction. Of course, these powerful computers spend insane amounts of electricity, so mining always comes with a high electricity bill. Currently, all Bitcoin miners spend more annual electricity than all of Finland, which has 5.5 million inhabitants. How do miners get paid? All miners get money from two different sources. One of the sources is the transaction. The sender pays a certain fee to the miner who validated the transaction. The second source is a certain amount of Bitcoin that's automatically generated out of nothing the moment miners find the number and validate the transaction. The entire Bitcoin system was designed to create new Bitcoins through mining. This means that every miner is like a small virtual money printing company. However, just because anyone can create Bitcoin out of nothing, it doesn't make it a recipe for inflation. On the contrary, Bitcoin is a deflation currency. The first reason why is that the system was designed so that miners always know how big the reward is for helping transactions take place. The current reward is 6.25 Bitcoins, and miners get a tiny piece of it. The second reason is that the algorithm limits the total number of Bitcoin to 21 million. Up until January 2022, 18.9 million Bitcoins have been generated. The more Bitcoins there are, the smaller the reward, which helps prevent inflation. Once miners generate 21 million Bitcoins, the reward will be equal to zero, and miners will only profit from transactions. The third and most important reason that helps prevent inflation is the popularity of Bitcoin. Let's put it this way. If you bought $100 of Bitcoin in 2010, you would have about $8 billion in 2022. Blockchain data is public. It's true. Blockchain data is public and you can find it on different websites. Every person in the world can see the content of every blockchain and every transaction that ever took place. Which might sound terrible. Why on earth should someone know how much money you have and what you're doing with it? Well, that's not the way blockchain works. To keep things simple, we mentioned users Jane and John who sent certain amounts of money. In reality, the public data says something along the lines of user 43972513691 sent $500 to user 2493561785224. People are actually hidden behind a random string of numbers known as the address. The only thing the public can see is one number sending money to another number. But how are the addresses connected to real people? Every miner gets a long number that's called a private key. When you enter the system for the first time, you get a number that's only known to you. However, if someone finds that number, they can steal all of your money, so you need to make sure not to lose it, ever. When you want to send or receive money, your computer generates a different number called the address based on your private key. The same thing happens on the receiver's end. Your address and the receiver's address are sent for verification to miners, along with the amount you're sending, of course. Once the transaction is done, addresses are recorded in the blockchain. The public can see the addresses, but they can't use them to find out what your private key is. So, to send money, you need to have your own address and the receiver's address. Once that is published, it is sent for mining. What is a digital wallet? Since keeping your private key on a piece of paper or a USB that you can lose easily is not a very smart thing, there are specialized cryptocurrency platforms that keep it safe for you. One of the most famous platforms is Coinbase. When you open an account on Coinbase, they create a private key for you, but it's never revealed to you for safety reasons. What you do get is an address that you can use to send and receive Bitcoin through the Coinbase app. So the Coinbase app takes your address and the receiver's address, the amount you're sending, and forwards it to miners across the world. Besides the cryptocurrency platforms that offer digital wallets, there are also hardware wallets, which are devices that you plug into your computer via USB. It holds your private key and generates addresses for transactions. The downside of hardware wallets is that you can lose them, so having a few backups might be a smart thing to do. How can you buy Bitcoin? The first step would be to open an account on Coinbase or any other cryptocurrency platform where you can buy Bitcoin, but for the sake of the video, we'll stick to Coinbase. Now, you can buy Bitcoin directly through Coinbase, and all you need is a credit card number. Just make sure to check that your country is supported on Coinbase, otherwise you won't be able to buy. That being said, the easiest way to get Bitcoin is to give physical cash to someone who owns Bitcoin, after which they can transfer it to you through Coinbase by initiating a transaction. Blockchain could change the world. It didn't take long for people to realize that blockchain technology can be used for more than just trading cryptocurrencies. Any type of personal property such as land, house, apartment, car, real estate, medical data, etc. can be stored in a blockchain. It is believed that if we moved everything to blockchain technology, the level of corruption around the world would reduce significantly. Now for the things that we simplified in this video. We mentioned at the beginning that we'll keep everything simple. Now that we've explained the basics, we can throw in one more fact. We spoke about a transaction forming a single block that's added to the chain, expands the blockchain and keeps it safer. In reality, a single block can fit about 4,000 transactions that are usually made within 10 minutes. This means that miners are looking for one number that will go through all of those transactions, not just one. However, this only goes for the most powerful machines. Others that don't have the top-tier specs take much longer to mine. So, did you enjoy learning about Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, mining and blockchain? If you did, let us know in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe for more.